Welcome to BookView TV. I'm Dennis Campbell. Each week we discuss the craft of writing books with an author in any one of a number of categories. Now, sitting across the Skype table this week is novelist Taylor Fulks. Now, the term novelist is placed in parentheses here because her book is a novelization of a true story that is completely autobiographical. It deals with the ugly specter of abuse as a child and then as an adult, and literally takes this subject out of the closet. Now, Taylor describes her work as, "My novel is based on a true story, my story. It is dark, disturbing, and very graphic." And in her blog, she explains why she had to write it, referring to a guest post simply titled, "The Two Faces of Shame." Now, Taylor also does truly angelic work in the operating suite as a registered nurse first assistant. She harvests veins from patients' legs to be used in heart bypass surgery. It's amazing work. And there is a post with photos on her blog, not for the weak of heart, but it is fascinating to take a look at. Her book is titled A Prison Without Bars. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and in paper and in e-formats. And she joins us today from Southern Ohio. Taylor Fulks, welcome to BookView TV.
Hi, Dennis. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Now, Taylor, this is a very heavy subject, and as you described, not for the faint of heart. So let's start with, why did you feel compelled to write this?
Actually, I didn't, in the beginning, feel compelled to write it so much as I just wanted to write. I'm a prolific reader, have been for quite a few years, and I was trying to get amused, I wanted to write mystery romance. And I kept hearing this little voice inside my head saying, write your story, write your story. And for whatever reason, I listened. And when I started it, it was very innocuous. I was afraid to touch the subject. So I kind of left it very vague, up to the reader's imagination, if you will. And an incident happened here in the States with Penn State University. And there was an abuse scandal that just covered the headlines. And I watched it. I was almost obsessed with it just to see what had happened. And the perpetrator, Jerry Sandusky, was convicted of pedophilia against young boys in an athletic program. And the university took stands, fired the head coach, who also knew, Joe Paterno. And I was absolutely thrilled. And then as I watched, interviews were cut, grossly edited, and the final straw for me was when a group of students, administrators, just, a group of people had been interviewed out on the lawn of the Penn State University after the statue of Joe Paterno had been taken down. And they were so upset and enraged. And one gentleman looked into the camera and he said, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. And I snapped. I saw red. And I thought, your mind only allows you to go a certain way. And something inside me said, people need to know what these children experience, what I experienced. And it was over from then. I went back and read the first 8 chapters. At the time, it was only 8 chapters. The first 8 chapters of my book. I was about a third of the way through. And I read the first 8 chapters and I thought, I can't do this. And it was like a mission to me to make people feel, to make people go to that dark place. And the fortunate thing is, people that read it, that have never experienced it, can go to that dark place and leave it. It's with me forever. It's with any child that's been abused forever. And I went from there, and I left nothing to the imagination. And I don't apologize for that. It's just something I felt that I had to do.
Indeed, indeed. Now, you and I talked via email before this, and I shared with you my own experience, and indeed it was, a very similar voice inside of me that said, write about it. And also at the time, this is going on about 12 years ago, that I had the revelation that this is a topic that had to be written about, that the church in the Diocese of Boston, which is where I grew up in Massachusetts, was in the news every day. And I remember being called by a reporter for the Boston Globe, and he was not so much interested in the story as he was in naming names. Now, it's really kind of funny the way the media works, and we can come back to that a little bit later in our talk together today. But I wanted to know, because I felt in my own mind that I had to somehow get this out of me as if it was somehow being expunged. How was it with your experience when it came to writing about this?
Well, it's funny because everybody asks me, oh, are you healed now? Are you, I don't even know the word, is this closure for you? No, it's not. The full title of my book is My Prison Without Bars, The Journey of a Damaged Woman to Someplace Normal. And you're always damaged. It's something that you get past it, hopefully. You claw your way out and you do something with yourself. But it's always back there. It's not something I think about every day, but when you hear about kids that have been abducted for 10 years in Cleveland, Ohio, it brings it back to the forefront. It awakens something inside you. Then you listen to it and you hear people's ideas about things, comments that people make. Oh, that can't be true, or that didn't happen. And it's very much a reality for a very large percentage of the population. My main thing is that this book has allowed me to feel the appropriate feelings that I feel toward the appropriate people. My mother being one, my abuser being another, my husband, different people in my life. I have lived in secrecy and silence for so long. Because of the experiences that I had, I have been a person, a shell of a person. The real person that's inside of me has never been allowed to come out. I've never allowed that. And with this book, it's given me freedom to do that.
Yeah, and you raise a big point there about acceptance. It felt as if the default reaction was one of denial at first. That could not have happened. But I have to say that most, if not all, appeared to be very accepting when I revealed the abuses. Of course, exes and people who are, normally jerks are accepted. But, they would usually come back with a line, well, that explains a lot. But how was it that you were not accepted at first with this story?
Basically, people saying that because I was abused, I should not be able to talk about it. That abused people don't divulge this information. I've had a few rather unfriendly reviews that have basically said that, this doesn't ring true, this couldn't have happened. There are aspects of my book that are fictional. I didn't want it to be a memoir. I didn't know how to write a memoir, and I thought, you've got to have answers or some epiphany that you can share with other people. I have no answers. But I also, I find it interesting that someone can sit there and say, well, abused people don't act this way. Abused people don't talk about their abuse like this person has. Well, that's just like me telling you, if your mother died, well, okay, today you're supposed to cry. Tomorrow you're supposed to be a little bit somber. And day after tomorrow, you're supposed to be okay. We all react differently. We all behave differently. We all get a burst of bravery, courage, whatever you want to call it, at different times. I'll share, I'm 51 years old, and I have been silent for 49 of those years.
Well, when we come back, we're going to go a little bit deeper into this subject, because this ability to talk about it appears to be something that is healing at some level for us, but certainly not for the people sometimes with whom we share this information. We'll be back with BookView TV for part 2 with Taylor Fulks. Stay right here.